join us with flu and colds and other things that I've been fighting for the last 3 weeks. I'm just glad to be joining anything today, to be quite honest with you. It's been a mess. So I'm going to just talk a little bit about, and I'll kind of take them in sequence of the way we kind of ask my staff to keep up with costs, which is always the biggest ones first, and then we'll go down the line. And along with that, what we believe is the impact on the city. Number one, and obviously, is Riverside Park. I was just there a little while ago for an hour or so to tour some people that will be involved in, in case you don't know, April 1st, which will be officially announced next Wednesday by a press release, and also we'll officially notify who is the guest speaker and the agenda for the day. Starting at 10 o'clock in the morning, there'll be traditional kind of things, a presentation of colors, the singing of the national anthem. Tom Baxley has been kind enough to agree to MC the event.
Oh boy.
So you can't go wrong there. And then after a few other things, he will introduce me and I will recognize a number of people that have had a significant impact on assisting both me and the city in making this a reality. Riverside Park is more than I ever thought it was going to be, and I'll just tell you just a couple of brief stories, and you're going to have a story that goes with something that vital. It's a $49.767 million project, and I go on to the comma and all the other digits, but it's really not necessary once you get past 49.767. And interesting about how all that came about, or struggled and staggered out of the gate like a 7-year-old horse trying to run in a 3-year-old contest. We went to the public in November of 13, I think it was, and asked for a half-cent public safety tax and a half-cent quality of life tax. And I felt very confident about the half-cent public safety tax. We had been working for a year to make people understand that it's very difficult to run a city that has grown by 41%, 22,000 to 33,000 at that time, with the same size police and fire and 911 services that you had when you were 22,000. Fortunately, people understood that. And what are you going to do and how do you do it? When we were at 1.5% at the time was the city of Benton's sales and use tax that we collected. And in those collections, by ballot ordinances passed by the public some years before, reordained in that election, 1/4 went to streets, 1/4 went to parks, and only 1% went to the general fund. I don't want to dazzle you with numbers, but just for the sake of being sure you understand it, in the general fund is police, fire, 911, all administrative services, and so on. And 81 cents out of every one of those dollars goes to police, fire, and 911. So we were faced with a very, very difficult situation of a growing community, 41%, with no growth in revenue, which meant no additional police or fire or other services. That is an untenable situation. And the model I typically use with most people I talk to, and I can't remember how many groups they said I talked to, Charles Cunningham tells a neat story. You all know Alderman Cunningham. He said, there was one time where I was supposed to speak to a group of 8 or 10 people, and only 2 showed up, and I said, I don't care, I'll speak to 2. To get a chance to tell you a story, 2 became 6 who told their neighbors, who became 12 who became more. But at that point in time, we knew that something had to change, and that half cent was not, in my opinion, that something that people didn't buy into because it did, and it passed 72 to 28%. It was more of a, how do you feel things are going to happen? What are you going to talk about in quality of life? And quality of life became the following. There were numerous times during the summer and fall of 2013 that I had a chance to speak with a lot of businesses and tried aggressively to recruit businesses to the city of Benton. I thought that was a part of my job. And during those discussions, I would always hear about what Rogers, Fayetteville, Conway, Springdale, Bentonville all have. Now, they would talk about the business. They would talk about parks, quality of life, recreation, swimming pools, walking trails, tennis courts, meetings, all these things. So during that fall, when I was speaking to all the members of the council about this, I told them, how do you want to compete with all of those Northwest Arkansas dynamos when you don't have the things that they have already? And the real, I guess the turning point for me was on a Saturday. I was sitting and talking to a couple businessmen, and we were in the midst of, you need to be in Benton and all this other stuff. And wow, it'd been proud of me. I was selling. And all of a sudden, this one gentleman, one of the owners of the business, said, by the way, Mayor, where's your swimming pool? Nope. Just the way you're all looking at me right now is the way they all looked at me when I said, I'm sorry, we don't have one. The whole demeanor in the room changed because of a swimming pool. It doesn't make a lot of sense when you're trying to figure out how to get a business to come to town, except when he went on and added, well, both of my kids are very active in swimming, and that's one of the things we really enjoy, and I hate to hear that you don't have a pool. So what was the message? There are amenities and quality of life things that you have to have, number one, to even be competitive to begin with. Number two, your citizens are going to demand you have those things. And it's not a matter of competition for business, it's a matter of lifestyle and the way people are now enjoying those things. So within 3 or 4 months, we made presentations at a number of places, felt pretty good about the reception. Long story short, it passed 64 to 36%. So what happened? Well, you got the vote to do it now what are you going to do? Well, we started off by having a whole series of people come in and start talking to us about what it ought to look like. And ultimately, from all that, settled on some designs. And we were now in the spring, I think, of 2014 or summer. And during a meeting with architects, mechanical contractors, construction contractors, and all in the room, I said to a group of these people, I said, it would be nice to have an idea what this thing is going to cost. They all, okay. I said, so why don't you all go off in the room next Wednesday or Thursday by yourself, and all you come up and come back in a week from Tuesday and tell me a number. And so they did. And if you might remember, or if you don't, I'll refresh your memory, we passed a bond issue for $37.7 million. Thinking that, wow, you could build a whole new city. And so they came back that next week, and we're sitting in the room, and finally I said, okay, well, what's the number? And they all kind of looked down. Finally, one of them looked up and said, Mayor, $49.6 million. I said, what? What did you just say? Do you realize we only got 37.7 in bonds? Yes, sir. I know Matt remembers this. And I think, I'll say it, I'm not sure the way I said it then. I said, I think you all need to leave the room and just leave me alone. Because it's going to take me 3 or 4 weeks to figure out what the saying we're gonna do. We went after, about 3 months later, a $6 million franchise bond, which is supported by franchise fees the city charges, where we have the right to dedicate, instead of being used for general fund, it's used to pay off a bond initiative. And with council's approval, we were able to pass a bond issue that we did not go back to the public. I told them then, and I told everybody that if you're gonna go back to the public, then we're not gonna get this thing built. The public has already voted and said what they'll do. To ask for more is to be disingenuous. We should have said that at the beginning. Probably could have had a better luck of getting more of that if we'd have said it, but didn't know. So we got 6, got us to almost 44, so we're still $7 million or $6 million short, again, with the help of council. And state law allows us to use some street and street improvement money, including $0.25 for certain things, such as streets, sidewalks, parking lots, and so on. So with the help of the contractors, we developed a $5.7 million issue of how they were gonna build certain things, and it was gonna be paid for by cash out of those accounts. Unfortunately, we had over $8 million had accrued in our last 4 years into streets and street improvements. So what does that tell you? It took 37.7 plus 6 plus 5.7 to put all that together to get Riverside Park. Yet we'll be opening on April 1. Boys and Girls Club lease is signed. The senior center was signed, lease was signed a week or so ago. They're in the process of saying they'll be able to hand the keys March the 24th or 5th. Is the date now. We're all saying that we're gonna shake hands and they're gonna hand the keys, and Boys and Girls Club Senior Center and all gets to move in, and all the events and things that are already starting to happen and are planned down there are just unbelievable. I just can't tell you how big an impact I believe it's gonna have on our community. Well, let's move on to something else. How about shops of Benton? Anybody interested in the shops of Benton?
I'm ready for Hobby Lobby.
I had a chance to speak with people last weekend. And as my wife tells the story, the only thing that I'll ever be remembered for after this is all done is to help bring Hobby Lobby to Benton.
Yes.
That is what she tells everybody. She told somebody that yesterday. So I guess that's a good thing. I don't know a lot about Hobby Lobby, except that I park in front, she gets out and walks in, I know that part of it. But Hobby Lobby, they are now underway. Shops of Benton is saying that they should probably be opening in late August or 1st of September. There are some additional, hopefully, announcements about some additional restaurants and other things that they're gonna let me know about this week, and we'll announce them as soon as we know about them. I could go on and talk about individual pieces of restaurants and other things, but those are the two biggest in sequence. The new police fire substation is finally underway. Yes? Actually moved some dirt. Haven't moved any dirt. We're getting ready to remodel the old Benton Utilities Play area for expansion for the police department, for chief, assistant chief, conference, and other security issues, because we're out of room downstairs, and we have to find a place to have lockers for all the people we're hiring, what we call police officers. So that's going on, and a lot of other things. So I'll stop at that point and ask if you have any questions or things that you'd like to ask about. Yes, ma'am.
Lots of people are asking me how Alamo Road is going, the widening and the roundabouts, and how long is that going to take?
Well, let's see, it started 3 months ago. I said at that time 22 months, so that would leave 19. So what is this, February? February next year, late 2018, that would be my guess. Contractors are pretty much on schedule in spite of all the weather issues and delays and some other problems with gas lines not being deep enough and slopes not being right on the sides of ditches. But Weaver and Bentley has done a good job, and We're meeting with them, I believe, tomorrow for an update. We meet with them every other week. I really can't say much other than I'm not familiar with a lot of that, other than when we accepted the responsibility to be lead agency, as you might suspect, being from my background, the first thing I wanted to be sure was how do we pay for these things? You know, it's not, you know, you can make a wonderful plan, and of course Alamo Road needs to be 4-lane, I think we all agree to that. But you still have fundamental responsibility to be sure that the bills are gonna get paid somehow or another, and it turned out to be a $16.2 million project. When I first came into office, I was told it was gonna be 11.7. So that can tell you how dramatically things can change in 4 years. 80% is federal funding, and we have a mechanism in our accounting organization where all the reimbursements and all the things we have to do to file and all the paperwork is being come up with. The road itself, in my opinion, will be, and I just got to remember, 68% of the cities or the borders that abut to Alcoa Road is in Benton. 15.3% is Bryant, 15.8% is county. So we have a very deep interest in being sure that Alcoa is becoming, because it's going to become a very major corridor on the east side of town for certainly a lot of business growth opportunities. I don't know much about roundabouts, so I'm assuming that the people that designed it hopefully knew that it was the best thing to do. I'm kind of always been a 90-degree four-corner guy myself, but that happens when you're my age. So we'll see. I think it's all going to turn out all right, and we got about, I'm guessing, late 2018 before we'll really have it usable in all the new lanes both directions. You need to remember one thing, and this is not an engineering class, but whenever you make a 2-lane or 4-lane, you put a lot of new concrete in place. When you do that, you take away green space, you take away soil, you take away trees. And so now you've got a heck of a lot more water coming off of concrete going somewhere than you had before. Those are one of the things that are called, whether it's in scope or out of scope, that I've been working on and watching very closely to be sure that, because you just don't want to build a new road and walkway and say, wow, isn't that wonderful? And all you've done is created issues all over the place about other issues with drainage and all. So we're working on that very. Did I answer your question?
Yes, sir.
Okay, good. Anything else? Anything, Brian, I should say while I'm here?
I think Tacos for Life is going to be opening up. We're really excited about that.
I had a great opportunity to talk with Mark and Austin. Austin is the son. Last week. They're still shooting for the 3rd week of April to open, soft opening. Great, looking forward to it. I think you know about all the other things that are going on. So, any other questions about anything?
What about the farmer's market?
Yeah, what about it?
When's that going to happen? Is that going to be in the spring, or? I think Brad wants to know the answer to this too.
You plan. If you get 3 out of 5 or 4 out of 5, timing wise, right, that's a pretty good average. In this business or any business, I guess, really. Farmers market has stumbled some. And the reason it has stumbled some is because in the budgetary process finalized in November, sent to council in December, there was more requested, as there usually is, than revenue being projected to pay for it. And our Parks Department seems to be one that is living on steroids, because every time I turn around, they have something else they want to build or do. And that's all well and good, except you still got to find out how to pay for it. So in that process, I believe it was in November, we had to take almost $900,000 worth of projects in the projected 017 out of parks to balance everything out. One of those was farmer's market for $251,000. And as I told all of them then, and I'll tell you now, I feel very comfortable by spring as we see our tax numbers and our revenue, we'll be able to put it back in. But more importantly is, I've had the opportunity in recent weeks to talk with a lot of private businesses about getting more aggressive about helping do things like that. We have right now, and I'm having a meeting tomorrow with some people about, well, why don't you all get together and build farmers market with your money? I don't know how that's all gonna end up, but like I said last week, I told somebody, we'll be underway at farmers market in some way or another, probably by late spring, early summer. It's gonna be in 2 phases. It's gonna be 30 by 60, which is modular. There'll be 2 modular. The way I describe it is let's put a double wide together. 30 by 30, and then another 30 by 30, so now you're 60 feet long. The design was 120 feet. That's over $500,000. So we're going to have to do this in stages, and we'll get there. I don't know whether we'll get there, don't ask me a time window, but we will get there. So I'm hoping to have it started by late spring.
Cool.
Anything else? Okay, does anybody have anything about it? All right, well, it's great to visit with you, guys. It's been a year or so, and this is a great group, because last time I came down there, I guess they heard I was coming, and there was 3 people there. So. Do you all know who was, you didn't know I was gonna speak to that, that's why you're here. I can tell. So, anything else? Good to see you. How you doing? Good. All right. Thank you all for your time.